big thing is when you're thinking about social, how can you end up creating a system to create content at mass scale and think of these pieces of content as experiments, not all the same type of content, different types of content. And then you can end up figuring out what's going to hit and what's not, and then just double down on that.
Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and if you're on YouTube, click the alert notification.
All right, guys, we are here with Neil Patel, and I'm super excited. This is somebody that I've been following for a long time. I'm sure you get that all the time, Neil, but this is a big day for me to actually meet you for the first time because I came from a place where I didn't have a whole lot, and I've started following you a long time ago, and it's such a weird thing to be able to talk to you right now. So I really appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you for having me. And for anyone listening, the reason I'm here is you did cold outreach, right? You get a lot of no's when you do that, or a lot of pretty much ignoring, right, where people don't respond to you. But it's a numbers game, and this is proof that if you do cold outreach and you try and you just keep pushing even when things aren't going your way, good shit can happen.
Right on, man. So look, I know most of the interviews that I've seen with you are generally about SEO and about social media and what you know best, but I kind of wanted to change the angle. I actually recently been getting out of SEO just because I kind of got bored with it a little bit, and I did actually I watched your video on your website, and I did want to ask you about that. It says that you really like helping small businesses. First of all, why small businesses over helping like influencers or people that are running big businesses? What is there a contrast there, or is it just both?
So I consider influencers people who are starting small businesses.
Okay.
To me, that's all one bucket. Even that solo entrepreneur, that's a small business. I do like helping big businesses as well, but that joy, that feeling you get from seeing that small business owner succeed or they're life changing, to me, you can't get that same feeling by helping a big business. Now, there's nothing wrong with big, corporations or the Fortune 500, but you just don't get that same satisfaction seeing that SMB or that solo entrepreneur succeed and hire more people and live a better life and accomplish their dreams.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So look, Neil, I think my biggest question that I wanted to ask you is, what would you do if you went back to having, let's say, like 40,000 subscribers and like a small blog? Would you start doing a bunch of blogging again, or would you get more? Because obviously you're more into video these days. What would you do if you're in that situation?
I would see what you're naturally best at. Like if you look at a Gary Vee, amazing on video, audio, his team does the content, text-based content. The reason being is he's better on video and audio, and that's what he enjoys. I, on the flip side, tend to enjoy the text-based side more than the video. I do both, but I still prefer the text-based side. So I would start again with that just because I play on strengths. And everyone needs to look at it differently. Like if you look at the opportunity right now, podcasting is booming, very little competition, adoption rates going through the roof. But when you look at podcasting, if you don't like doing audio, you don't like doing interviews, don't force yourself to do it. There's a lot of different channels out there. And if you want to do video instead, do video. If you want to do text-based content instead, do that. If you want to do audio only, do that. Like it literally is up to you, and it doesn't always have to just be one or the other. You can also repurpose. If I do a text-based piece of content, I don't like video, I can have someone on my team repurpose it and make it into video. Or I can have someone else on my team create a podcast out of it if I don't like to do audio.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, that's interesting because obviously you do a ton of text and you have a huge amount of traffic going to your website. But do you think that people should start like getting more into video if they like, you don't think that they should force themselves, is what you're saying?
It's not about should you get into video or not. You should get into video. You should get into podcasting. You should get into text-based content. The question is are you the right person to do it? Do you need to partner with someone? Do you need to hire someone? There's many different solutions, but you should use them all. The web's gone omni-channel. If you want to do well these days, you can't just do SEO or content marketing or social media marketing. You have to go omni-channel, leverage all the platforms.
So you brought up a point earlier about cold outreach, and you said, hey, look, this is how you get in front of people is you make the effort and hopefully it works out. Do you think that that's something that is what you would recommend if maybe you were starting out and you would start just cold outreaching to a bunch of influencers and maybe trying to get them on an interview or just like get in front of them and talk to them?
I would, and there's no harm in trying. And the more people you outreach to, the more likely someone's going to say yes. Now, I myself don't see myself as an influencer or someone who's successful or anything like that, but you outreach to me, I said yes. And again, I don't have an ego. I don't think I'm, a Tony Robbins or a Tom Cruise or, literally 99.999999999% of the world has no clue who I am. And that's fine. But the whole thing is you got to try. And that was my whole thing, because before we started this interview, you said thank you. And I pretty much was telling you, no, you should be proud that you reached out. Like when I first started my business, and this is also why I like helping SMBs, I reached out to a lot of people and they helped me out for free. I didn't have the money to pay them, but that's the way the world works. Like if we can't help each other out, then what's the point of just being around? Like we should put others before ourselves.
That's awesome. Yeah, I started getting mentored by somebody that is pretty well, not really well known, but he has some clout. And it was weird for me because I started realizing that the more successful you become, the less ego. Well, at least the really successful people, the good people, they have less, the less ego they have. And so I almost feel like becoming more successful isn't even just being better at something, but almost becoming a better person too.
Yeah, it can be, but there's also a lot of good people who aren't quote unquote successful, assuming you mean success in a monetary standpoint, that are great people. Like look at all the firefighters, teachers, police. There's just a lot of people out there who do good. Heck, I even believe the people who do community service, like people, picking up trash every single day from all these neighborhoods, or people delivering mail. They're all great people and they're doing a job that's needed. And without them, it would be really hard to survive in society. I believe a lot of that just comes down to how you're raised. And the one thing, and I know you're big into influencers, the one thing I always just tell people is, especially if you're going to get into the influencer game, you don't have to flash to do well. I think flashing is overrated. Just be yourself. And if people accept you for who you are, great. If they can't, then that's their loss, because they're missing out on getting to know an amazing person.
Yeah, Neil, it honestly sounds like you care a lot about people. And, I really admire that. I think the thing that I was curious about around that is, you say, well, I don't really define, at least is what I heard, I don't really define success by like a monetary value, but it sounds to me like you define success based on the type of person you are and how much you contribute to helping others. Is that right?
So I look at success as you just being content. If you're content, satisfied with your life, to me, you're successful. I don't say happy, because happiness is a state of emotion that you can't maintain. You can't be happy and in cloud 9 24/7. You don't want to have the emotional roller coaster where you're happy one minute and depressed and sad the next minute. And there's nothing wrong with being sad and depressed. It happens to a lot of people, most of us. But the goal is to be content, where you're just satisfied with life. A lot of people are like, I want this home, I want this car. Do you really want it? You're gonna have to work that much more to achieve that. If you just want to go and cook, and you're amazing at cooking, and it doesn't pay you what you want, but you can cut back on your life, to me, if you can figure out how to cook for a living and you're satisfied and you're happy cooking, but you may not have that big home or that Ferrari or whatever, to me, you're successful because you're doing what you want to do. And I believe that's more important than being like, I'm going to go chase a quick buck, or I'm going to even chase money, but that's more long-term, and I'm going to go build a Tesla or SpaceX. Like, that's not the majority of us. We're no Elon Musk.
And I actually read some stuff about you a while ago about how you used to, do a bunch of websites and you'd make all this money, and then it wouldn't work out like long term, right? And it sounds interesting to me because it almost sounds like you transitioned into like, oh, okay, now I just want to be content. And first of all, I don't know if that's true or not, the other thing that I said. And but the second thing I wanted to ask,
the websites one is true. I used to have a lot of websites.
Right.
When I was a lot younger, probably like 10, 15 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. And you definitely were you're trying to live it up, right?
Yeah. Not as you live it up. At that time I was younger. I just want to make money.
Right.
Yeah. But eventually I learned that focusing your time and energy to make money is a bad use of time.
Hmm.
If you want to make money, though, there's nothing wrong with that. You're going to make money not by trying to make money. You're going to make money by solving problems. If you solve problems that a lot of people face and your solution is either affordable or easy to use, you can do well in the long run. What I ended up learning over time is when I started making money, I would buy crap, watches or stupid stuff that I didn't need and make me happy for a week, maybe even a month, and then I'll just go back to my normal self. And once I really realized in life on what satisfied me and made me content or happy, then I shifted my focus. Like, I enjoy walking every single day with my daughter. To me, that's great. I don't want a day where I don't walk with my daughter, whether it's for 30 minutes or hour, just that nice casual stroll with my wife and my daughter. And like, we enjoy that. So you got to figure it out. And sometimes that doesn't go well with the web. What I mean by that is like, everyone wants those crazy cool pictures. I'm not that guy in wearing a suit, on a stroll down Rodeo Drive. I'm that guy wearing gym shorts and a white t-shirt that has ketchup stains on it because of my child. And I'm walking down a neighborhood where the homes don't, all have gates in front of it and people don't have Ferraris in front of their homes. And I'm okay with that. And I like that. So
we're talking about being content, and I kind of want to know, Neil, like obviously you have to have some ambition, right? Like there's a certain level of contentment in being ambitious. And so what would be that next thing for you, do you think, like that you still get to maintain this level of contentment, but at the same time working towards something that you want?
So I just like winning in business.
Winning.
And my goal is to create one of the biggest marketing technology companies. It has nothing to do with the money or how many people I can employ. It's just I want to win. It's nice to employ people and it's nice to make their lives better. But at the end of the day, just being honest, I like winning.
Yeah, I like that a lot because at least I like knowing that you still have that competition in you, because what I see with some people, especially some of the people that I've been talking to, they've been mentoring me, is that they get to a point where they make enough money and they get to contentment, but they lose the competitiveness and they just are bored. But it sounds to me like you're not bored, you're still having fun.
I'm having a ton of fun, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, if you're doing something that you don't like, most people tell you go quit and do something else. Sometimes it's not that easy because you need to pay bills or whatever your family situation is. But I would work on a side hustle, and then once the side hustle becomes big enough, then transition.
Another thing, Neil, so obviously, like everybody, at least in my belief, everybody should have somebody to look up to. I was curious who your person would be that you look up to as somebody that, like, you're like, wow, that person's so cool.
I'm a big fan of Bill Gates, not because of his success at Microsoft, although that shouldn't be undermined. He did an amazing job there. I'm a huge fan of Gates on what he's done with his wealth and how he's trying to solve some of the world's toughest problems, like, stop COVID, stop malaria, whatever it may be, help with the earth and cause less pollution. Now, I know a lot of people are just like, I hate him. I don't want to do vaccines or whatever. I'm not trying to tell people what to do or what not to do. I just like the mission of Gates himself, on which he's trying to put his money towards good and trying to help people, for whatever that means.
So I was watching a masterclass, and that guy Neil deGrasse Tyson had something that he brought up that was really interesting. He said the best question that you can ask is the one that you don't know. And one of the things I was curious is if you were, okay, so what do you think the question is that I should be asking that maybe I don't know about, if I were to go to the next level, if you know what I'm saying?
When you say you want to go to the next level, what do you mean?
I think that's also, that's probably that's probably the question, right? That's kind of, so again, like I think I've been doing SEO for like the last 5 years, and I started doing YouTube videos, and I've done over like a couple thousand of them, like live streams. And I kind of wanted to get out of it because I get more interested in like building engagement, building social. And so I think for me, like I'm kind of at this transition point where I'm going more into that, but I'm just curious, like what what you think about that direction.
I think it's great, and I think that is where the web is moving. I don't think it's going to be, SEO is big, but I think social is going to be even bigger 5-10 years from now. And I think social is going to expand from just being on one of these social networks to you even very Oculus devices and shopping with your friends in a virtual mall and trying stuff on and buying it out. And, Amazon comes and delivers it to you within literally 1 hour. And I honestly think like that is where the future is going. But the big thing is when you're thinking about social, how can you end up creating a system to create content at mass scale and think of these pieces of content as experiments, not all the same type of content, different types of content. And then you can end up figuring out what's going to hit and what's not, and then just double down on that. And if you do that for yourselves, as well as a lot of companies out there, I think you can do really well. Sorry, struggle with the content creation side. That's the biggest issue, and making a formula to mass produce content and different types of content, because that's how you experiment.
So obviously you've been experimenting a lot with content. What have you been finding that's been working, at least on the video side of things?
Going live, although you said you don't want to do that much more.
No. I love live. I just don't want to do videos about SEO anymore. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. I think going live is huge. All these social networks want to overtake television. So what are they doing? They're creating their own version of it, right? Going live, you can have your own version of the Kardashians. Just bust out your phone, talk in it, and boom, you're off into the races. And what they do is just encourage you because they want more people to stay on their site. Even if you have very little followers, they'll still push it out to more people just because they want more people to interact with you, so you do it more often. So that's one thing. The next thing when it comes to content types out there is a lot of people are trying to create content. What I mean by creating content, they're sitting down, they're like, what content should I create? Instead of just looking at your life and looking at your day and figuring out what content can you pull from that. For example, I'm on this interview with you, right? I can go take the recorded version, take snippets of it, and just pop it on the web. That's an example of me posting content without having to sit down and focus on just quote unquote creating content.
So again, like I'm really big into engagement, Neil, and I think like one of the things that I found that works really well, at least for my YouTube stuff and live, is like trying to build as much engagement as possible. And I think one of the things I wanted to know from you is like, what do you think works really well for getting people to kind of really give the algorithm what it wants, like high average session durations, lots of likes, lots of
anything that causes tons of comments. Comments are the key to most of these algorithms, more than duration or any of that, because if you're getting comments, that means you're going to get the duration naturally because people are engaging enough to leave a comment. Optimize for comments. Comments typically create virality. I'll do things like ask questions in my video and stuff like that, so then that way it encourages more comments. But, one, you have to create good content. 2, ask questions to encourage comments. 3, do something different than everyone else. If you do the same Me Too stuff, you're probably not going to do as well. Just like how SEO is saturated, YouTube, social media is becoming saturated as well. Everyone's used to post the same Lamborghini picture. Everyone used to show the same flashy picture of them in some outfit or in fancy home or a jet. Like, do something unique.
I just listened to this interview with the guy that's the manager of Mr. Beast. He's like the influence manager. And they talk about how they try to go against as much as possible what the norm is that people are interacting with and expecting. And I think that is really interesting. I was actually considering doing a video where I was going to go up to people at the beach and offer them an SEO audit just to pull more views, just to be weird.
But yeah, I would shy away from the SEO stuff because if it shy away from it. There's so much other stuff you can get into.
I was just saying like kind of like break the norm, just kind of weird people out. And I have found that the more shock value you put into something, definitely you get way more engagement, but it's also about like not pushing the needle too far because then you just become hated.
Yeah, you don't want to polarize.
Right. So sorry to keep bringing it back to this, Neil, but like if you were in the position, because I guess I can't really ask for me because you don't really kind of know the position I'm in, but if you were to go into a position of somebody that wanted to be more influential, and let's say they had like 20 or 30,000 subscribers, what would be the questions that you would be asking to get like from, let's say, $40,000 a month revenue to like 80,000, and obviously double your following? Like, what would be the biggest questions you'd be asking?
Sure. So if you're already making money, that means whatever you're doing to monetize is working. But I would ask yourselves a few questions. One, how often are you going live? The more you go live, the more engagement followers you get. Two, when you're going live, have you ever tried selling while you're live? That's super effective. Very few people do it. Third is, have you tried going live with other people? So like you and I, in theory, could have done this on Instagram and gone live at the same time, right? By doing that, my followers would have seen you, your followers would have seen me. We both would have grown our following. The fourth thing I would ask is, how many times a day are you creating content? And if you say like, oh, once a day or twice a day, I'd be like, all right, try to do 5-6 times a day. More the better, because the more people are going to eventually see you. The next thing I would ask is, what social networks are you pushing out on? Right now, TikTok and LinkedIn, they're causing content to go more viral than any other place. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snap. You're not going to go as viral compared to some of those other networks. Your reach is going to be hampered because they want you to spend money on advertising. The next thing you should ask yourself is, you're monetizing, but do you have your own products or service? Pitching someone else's stuff and peddling someone else's stuff doesn't work as well as peddling your own stuff. Assuming you have something that's really good, that you believe in, that you love, you're going to do way better than pushing someone else's stuff. And if you're not sure what to create, if you're already making some money, like you mentioned, that means you're already pushing someone else's stuff. See what's doing the best, and based on that, that'll give you ideas of what you can create. And I would start off with that.
Do you? So we have like a couple minutes left. We got like 9 minutes left. I wanted to ask, what do you think the most, like, if you were to pick 3 platforms right now, where would you put your money? Like TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn would be number 1. I know a lot of people look at it as B2B, but hey, everyone on there is also consumer. So LinkedIn would be number 1. TikTok would be number 2. YouTube would be number 3.
And if you added Google in there, would that be like number 4, or would it be like I'm talking
further down the list?
Really? Wow. Huh. So do you think that, okay, so this is a big thing. I don't want to ask you a loaded question. I don't want to make it about SEO, but do you think that SEO is dead or is dying?
No, I don't think it's dead or dying. I think it's a channel you can't ignore and you have to do it. Do you put all your eggs in the basket? No. Just like you shouldn't put all your eggs in the paid ad basket. Just like you shouldn't put all your eggs in the TikTok basket. These days you have to go omni-channel. The one thing that people aren't investing enough in, that they used to do years and years ago, that they're lacking, is building a brand. If I had to pick one thing in marketing that people lack these days, is they don't try to build a brand. And here's what I mean by that. When you want a car, if you got to buy a car tomorrow, what kind of car would you buy?
I just got a Mustang. I just got a Ford Mustang.
Okay, when you bought a Mustang, how'd you go about buying that Mustang?
Well, I originally wanted a Camaro, but they didn't have it, and that was the only other convertible they had. So.
Okay, did you go and Google for a Mustang?
Well,
did you Google for the Camaro, or
I think originally I did, but then when I walked in, I already kind of knew what I wanted based on the research. I think I actually did.
Okay, so how about shoes? If you want shoes, what brand would you buy?
Oh man, I don't know, like probably Adidas.
Okay, do you Google for Adidas, or do you just go and be like, I know I like Adidas, so I'm going to go to a store or go to a website and buy Adidas?
Yeah, no, 100%. I just go there.
Exactly. So sometimes you do your research. Google's powerful, SEO is powerful, and you should do it. But what's even more powerful is building that brand. We know Microsoft has amazing products because they're just Microsoft. We know Google is Google. We know Instagram is Instagram. Like, all these big companies do well because they just have a brand. Beats by Dre did really well, not because of SEO. Sure, SEO drives revenue, and you should do it. Just like you should do paid ads and you should do social media marketing. But at the end of the day, Beats by Dre did really well because they built an awesome product and they created an amazing brand.
So what would you do to build an amazing brand if nobody really knew who you were?
Focus on the product. Focus on the service. If you're an influencer, I would focus on creating amazing, unique content that's super thoughtful. A great example of this is, there's this photo profile that I keep seeing pop up on my Instagram. And this guy teaches you how to take amazing photos from like an iPhone, straight up. Like, he'll use like the selfie stick and like put it up in a tree and make it come down. Like, put like a little tape a little leaf at the end of the phone where the camera is. Like, he does some crazy stuff.
What's his name?
And that's amazing, neat content. I don't know, but I just keep seeing him in the reels.
Okay.
I'm not into photography, but I liked a lot of his photos.
So I think that's the big thing, is what you're saying, is like stand out. Don't just be kind of like, but do you think that the shock value is necessary? Because I do see that a lot. Like, you've probably seen like that channel, How To Basic, where the guy like starts out on how to make a cake and he starts throwing eggs all over the walls, and it's just like, you're not expecting it.
Yeah. There's this other dude, I think he was supposed to go to like Princeton or Columbia or one of these colleges, little kid, graduated from high school, and he just cooks. And he's just like, how to make Chipotle's guacamole recipe. And then like he breaks it down, and he's hilarious. Like, you put him some, like some little Salt Bay action. And he's just like, pound it, throw it in the oven, turn it on 275 degrees. Boom, 30 minutes, it's done. Crispy, tastes good. Like, the guy has a good personality. I look at them like, great content.
So you do think it is very important then that you represent your brand with something that isn't just going to, because that is the one thing, Neil, is like, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this today, is because I didn't want to go into, every interview I've seen with you generally ask, what should we do, links and that kind of thing. I honestly am curious about more influencer stuff, because I think a lot of people don't really talk about it. I think a lot of people,
it's so powerful too. Beats by Dre grew through influencers. They had every single celebrity, not every, but a lot of them. You would watch basketball games, boom, people were rocking out before the game even started wearing their Beats by Dre. You saw the Kardashians wear them. Like, you were seeing all the celebrities wear them. People were like, wow, that's amazing. I got to check out this product. Influencers are huge. Look at, Kylie Cosmetics. I believe that's what it's called. $1 billion company, Kylie Jenner. She took her influencer power, created her own business. Now, you can do that if you're an influencer, or you can just get paid to promote other people's stuff. Either way, it's super powerful.
So you talked about really liking to help small businesses, and you kind of considered those small businesses people that were influencers in a way. What would you do if you wanted to get next to maybe like bigger influencers? Obviously, you're already known, so it's a little, I would say, easier. But if you weren't known, what would be besides just cold out, or would you just say just comment and cold outreach?
I was about to say, I'm like, just do what you did.
Yeah.
Cold outreach.
Okay. And then
You're gonna cold outreach. You're gonna get a lot of people who say no, but even if a small percent say yes, it's a numbers game. Most people just don't want to put in the grind.
Right. And then would you recommend building those trying to build those relationships, or would you just like do do an interview and then just be like, hey, cool, good to see you, that kind of thing?
I would build the relationships after you cold outreach, and once you get to know some of these people, build the relationships. And the reason being is because then you can get introduced to their network, you can get better deals, you can get better ideas from them, they'll get feedback. I think business and life in general, if you're not going to build relationships, what's the point?
Do you mentor anybody, Neil, or is it like, do you kind of just try to stick to making sure that you have as much time to help as many people as possible, because obviously you have that type of reach?
I do mass quantity mentoring by social media content and blog content.
But you don't do like one-on-ones. I imagine you did back when you were starting, but not anymore, probably.
Correct.
Okay.
My now one-on-ones are mentoring my daughter.
Awesome.
So I got to raise a child, right? Got to help him grow up. That's changed for me. I was big on mentoring, helping people one-on-one. I wish I had more time to do it, but now I want to grow my family, eventually add more kids, and then, watch them grow up.
That's awesome. That's cool that you...
a little bit selfish, but that is what I want to do.
I mean, I think maybe not so, though, because at least you're still helping a ton of people, and you said that you wanted to build this technology that helps a ton of people. And I think it is true. Like, at a certain point, how much are you going to help one person unless maybe that person helps millions of people? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, either way, I respect it for sure.
Thank you.
All right, Neil. Well, we got 1 minute left. I just wanted to ask, or at least thank you, and then ask, what would be like the thing that you would like leave with, I guess, kind of saying like with where you're at and kind of what you've been discovering, what's something that you'd want to leave us with?
Experiment. And when you experiment, do it over the long haul. Here's what I mean by that. Shit is not going to go the way you want. Whatever content you create, trying to be an influencer, grow, usually it's not going to work out the first pass. It may not even work out the 5th pass or even the 10th pass. But if you keep experimenting and trying new things, and you do that over a course of a year, 2 years, eventually you'll figure out what's working for you and just double down on that. And most people, the reason they don't get to that status as an influencer, and I'm not saying I have, I'm just saying most people don't get there because they don't experiment enough and they don't put in the years. Like they expect the result to just happen right away. Like, you know, you see that dude who's on that longboard sipping on some cranberry and he went viral and he's huge and everyone's just like, dude, look at him. And he threw out quite a bit of content before that. They're like, why can't I just create something like that and just go viral and be popular? That's like a needle in a haystack, and that's what people are looking for, and it's just unrealistic for, you know, almost all of us in this world.
I would also say part of the reason why that guy probably went so viral is because of that angle. He was just a needle in a haystack, and I think people were blowing him up because they wanted people to see him. It was like an anomaly that he was just hanging out on a longboard drinking cranberry juice. That was his, like, a good time for him, right?
Yeah. And then he was singing along and all that. He was just enjoying life.
Right on, man. Well, thank you so much, Neil, for your time, dude. Like, I really appreciate it. You actually, honestly, like, this meant a lot more to me than I think you could probably imagine. And so I do really appreciate the time. I know you're a super busy guy. And I was just so shocked that I was able to have a talk with you. So I really appreciate it, man.
No worries.